My name is Evelyn Harper, and I'm the narrator of this heartfelt story. This painful memory dates back to the summer of 1987, when I was just 25 years old and newly married to my husband, John, who was 27 at the time. We lived in a quiet rural town in Tennessee, deep in the heart of America's farmland. John was the owner of a large family farm, and his trusted foreman, Tom, was like a brother to him. But behind the calm and peaceful fields, a secret betrayal was about to shatter everything I thought I knew about love and trust. The central theme of my story is betrayal, the kind that cuts deep and leaves scars on the soul. The unforgettable event that changed my life forever was the moment I caught John and Tom lying together in the old barn, sharing a secret kiss. The tone of this tale is raw and emotional, filled with pain, but also with a glimmer of hope for redemption and strength. The emotion I want to share is the aching heartbreak mixed with the determination to rise above and find peace. Picture a sweltering summer afternoon, the scent of hay and earth hanging thick in the air, the distant hum of cicadas filling the silence. The farm, usually a place of hard work and family gatherings, became the stage for my deepest betrayal. The barn's weathered wooden walls held the echo of my shattered dreams, while the late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the dusty floor. This is a story about broken trust, the struggle to heal, and the power of inner strength that can come even from the darkest moments. You ever have a moment so raw, so utterly shattering, that it stays with you forever? I still remember the exact day, the exact moment when everything I believed in crumbled right before my eyes. It was a summer afternoon on our farm in Tennessee, the kind of day when the air feels thick and heavy, and the scent of freshly cut hay mixes with the heat. I never imagined that day would mark the beginning of a heartbreak I never thought I'd survive. I walked into the old barn, expecting the usual quiet hum of work and trust. Instead, I found a secret that broke my soul. My husband, John, lying in the arms of our foreman, Tom. They didn't even see me at first, caught in a moment that wasn't meant for my eyes. The shock, the betrayal, it was like a knife twisting deep inside me. But that moment, as painful as it was, would also become the start of something I didn't yet understand. A journey of strength, resilience, and a fight to reclaim my own life. Have you ever faced a betrayal so profound that it made you question everything about love and trust? What would you do if the ones you loved most were the ones who hurt you the deepest? Before I share the whole story, I want you to take a moment, breathe, and prepare yourself. This isn't just a tale of sorrow, but one of hope and survival. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that touches your heart. This one is going to stay with you long after it ends. The moment I saw them in the barn, frozen in that heartbreaking embrace, the world around me seemed to crumble like dry earth under a heavy boot. The familiar smells of hay and aged wood that had once comforted me turned bitter and foreign. My heart hammered in my chest, a fierce and painful rhythm that drowned out the soft buzz of summer insects outside. I stood there, trembling and unsure whether to flee or confront the unimaginable truth right before my eyes. John and Tom finally noticed me, their eyes wide with shock, guilt, and something I couldn't yet name. The silence stretched long and heavy, the kind of silence that screams louder than any words. For a moment, none of us spoke. The barn, once a sanctuary of shared dreams and hard work, became a cage filled with shattered promises and unspoken pain. I felt my legs weaken, and I sank down onto an old wooden crate nearby, clutching my apron as if it could anchor me against the storm raging inside. My throat burned. A bitter lump caught tight as tears welled up, blurring the sunbeams slicing through the dusty air. Evelyn. John's voice was trembling, barely a whisper. But I couldn't listen. My mind spun with questions, doubts, and hurt so raw it felt like my skin was peeling away. How long had this been going on? How had I missed the signs? The nights John came home late, the whispered phone calls, the way Tom's laughter sounded different when he was around us. Tom stepped forward, eyes full of remorse, but his presence only deepened the ache. I remembered the times I had trusted him like a brother, welcomed him into our home as family. And now, this betrayal cut deeper than any blade. I wished I could scream, to release the pain and anger choking my breath. Instead, all that escaped were shaky breaths and quiet sobs. The barn echoed with the weight of silence, broken only by the creaking of the wooden beams overhead. Outside, the cicadas resumed their song, indifferent to the turmoil inside. The warm afternoon sun bathed the farm in golden light, a cruel contrast to the shadows settling in my soul. I thought of the years John and I had built together, the dreams we nurtured, the promises whispered beneath those very oaks lining the property. Our wedding day, bright and hopeful, seemed like a distant memory swallowed by the dust. What hurt most wasn't just the betrayal itself, but the unraveling of the life I had trusted to be safe and true. I was a young wife, full of hope and faith, now forced to face a reality I never imagined. I sat there for what felt like hours, caught between disbelief and heartbreak. The world outside the barn moved on. The wind stirred the leaves. Children's laughter drifted faintly from a neighbor's yard, and the sun began its slow descent behind the hills. But inside me, time had stopped. My soul was fractured, struggling to make sense of a love that now felt like a lie. I wanted to run away, to hide from the pain, but the farm was my home, and John was still my husband. Complicated, flawed, and human. Could love survive this? Could trust be rebuilt from the ruins? Tears traced silent paths down my cheeks as I struggled to breathe through the suffocating weight of betrayal. For the first time in my life, I felt utterly alone. In the days that followed that unbearable afternoon, silence became both a refuge and a prison. The farm carried on as usual. The tractors rumbled, the animals called to one another, and the sun rose and set over the endless fields. But inside my heart, a storm raged fierce and unrelenting. Each morning, I woke with a heaviness pressing on my chest, a quiet ache that no amount of prayer or willpower seemed able to soothe. The familiar creak of the porch swing, the scent of freshly baked bread from the kitchen, the soft rustling of cornstalks in the breeze, all felt distorted, as if the world itself had shifted out of place. I tried to avoid John and Tom, whose presence in the house now felt like thorns on my skin, but avoidance was a fragile shield. Conversations were clipped and filled with painful pauses, words left unsaid, hanging heavy in the air like the thick summer humidity. In the stillness of the night, when the farm lay under a blanket of stars and the world felt small and distant, I found myself wrestling with a maelstrom of emotions: grief, anger, confusion, and a deep yearning for answers that never came. Why had this happened? Was I not enough? Had I missed some secret sign in their laughter or the way they looked at each other? Memories flashed like old photographs. John's gentle smile, the way he'd brush a stray curl from my forehead, the quiet moments we shared watching the sunset from the porch. Could all that love have been a lie? I found myself retreating deeper into the familiar routines of the farm, the simple tasks of feeding chickens and tending to the garden grounding me when my mind threatened to unravel. The rough texture of soil between my fingers, the sweet tang of ripe tomatoes, the chirping of sparrows, these small things became lifelines. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, I sat by the old well, letting the cool breeze carry away some of the heaviness. Tears slipped freely then, unbidden and cleansing. In that moment of quiet sorrow, a faint flicker of resolve ignited within me. I realized that while my world had been shaken to its core, I still had the power to choose how to move forward. The farm, with all its scars and history, was my home, and I was more than the pain inflicted upon me. I was Evelyn, a woman who had loved deeply, been hurt deeply, but was not yet broken. The road ahead was uncertain and fraught with hardship, but I vowed silently to find my strength, for myself, and for the life I still wanted to live. As the cicadas sang their evening lullaby, I whispered a prayer not for healing, but for courage. Courage to face the coming days, courage to reclaim my own heart. The days that stretched after that summer of heartbreak brought with them a strange mixture of despair and quiet resolve. The once familiar rhythms of farm life now felt foreign and heavy. Yet, in the midst of that heavy silence, I began to uncover a resilience I hadn't known I possessed. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the rolling hills of Tennessee, painting the sky in soft shades of lavender and gold, I found myself sitting on the porch steps, the worn wood cool beneath my hands. The air was thick with the scent of honeysuckle and fresh earth, and the distant call of a whippoorwill broke the evening stillness. John was inside, the weight of what had happened between us settling like a shadow across every room. Tom had left the farm soon after my discovery, the betrayal too great for even their friendship to withstand. The farm was quieter now, but the silence was not peaceful. It was a heavy, oppressive thing that wrapped itself around me like a thick blanket. Despite the pain, that evening I felt a flicker of something new: hope. It was subtle at first, a soft glow in the darkness, but it grew stronger with each breath I took. I realized that I could not let this betrayal define me, or the life I still had to live. I began to lean on unexpected sources of support. My neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, a kind widow with silver hair and a knowing smile, offered gentle words of encouragement and an open door. She shared stories of her own losses and the strength she found in faith and community. Slowly, I returned to the rhythms of the farm, but with a new sense of purpose. Each morning, I greeted the rising sun with a silent prayer, drawing strength from the simple acts of planting seeds and tending animals. The roughness of the soil beneath my nails became a reminder that life, like the farm, could be renewed and nurtured even after storms. One afternoon, as I worked in the garden, a breeze swept through, carrying the sweet scent of blooming jasmine. I closed my eyes and let the warmth of the sun wash over me. In that moment, I felt a quiet peace settle in my soul, a small but powerful victory over the darkness that had threatened to consume me. The road ahead was still uncertain, filled with challenges I could not yet see beyond. But for the first time since that summer day, I believed I could reclaim my life and find joy again. After weeks of quiet reflection and gathering my strength, the time came when I could no longer bear the silence that had settled like a thick fog over our lives. The farm, once a place of laughter and shared dreams, had become a landscape of unspoken pain and distance. I knew that if I wanted to reclaim my life and find peace, I would have to confront the heart of the betrayal and face John directly. One late afternoon, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the golden fields, I found John in the barnyard, repairing a fence that had been damaged in a recent storm. The scent of fresh-cut grass mingled with the earthy aroma of the soil, and the soft chirping of crickets filled the air. My heart pounded in my chest, equal parts fear and resolve. I approached him slowly, the crunch of gravel beneath my boots sounding louder than I wanted. John looked up, his face weary and lined with guilt, eyes avoiding mine. The silence stretched between us like a fragile thread, ready to snap. "John," I began, my voice steady but gentle. "We need to talk." He nodded, wiping his hands on his jeans, bracing himself for the conversation he knew was coming. I told him everything I had felt since that day in the barn, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the loneliness. I spoke of the nights I spent crying silently, the moments I questioned my own worth, and the small flickers of hope that kept me going. John listened, his eyes filling with tears. When I finished, he reached out, his hand trembling as it found mine. "Evelyn, I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I was lost, confused, and selfish. I never meant to hurt you." That moment was a turning point, not just for us, but for me. I realized that forgiveness was not about forgetting the pain, but about freeing myself from its grip. It was about reclaiming my power and choosing to heal. We spent hours talking, unraveling the tangled threads of our broken trust, and slowly weaving a new understanding. It wasn't easy, and the path ahead was uncertain. But for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of peace. The farm, with its golden fields and open skies, became a symbol not of loss, but of renewal. The earth beneath my feet reminded me that life, like the seasons, is ever-changing, and from the hardest winters, the strongest springs can bloom. In the weeks that followed our heartfelt conversation, the farm seemed to breathe a little easier, as if the land itself sensed the slow but steady healing taking place. The golden fields, once heavy with sorrow, began to shimmer with a quiet promise of renewal. Every day brought new challenges, and forgiveness was a path strewn with thorns. There were moments when old wounds felt fresh, and the weight of betrayal threatened to pull me under again. But in those moments, I reminded myself of the strength I had discovered, the strength that had carried me through the darkest hours. John and I worked to rebuild the fragile bridge between us, brick by careful brick. Trust is not something given lightly, and it certainly is not easily restored once broken. Yet, with patience, honesty, and love, we began to stitch together the frayed edges of our marriage. The farm became our sanctuary and our teacher. The steady rhythm of planting and harvesting mirrored the slow work of healing. Each seed sown was a hope planted in the soil of our future. The creak of the old barn doors, the soft rustle of cornfields swaying in the breeze, and the warm glow of twilight became reminders that life goes on, and with it, the chance to grow anew. Neighbors offered quiet support, their kind smiles and simple gestures reminding me that community is a balm for wounded hearts. Mrs. Jenkins' weekly visits, bringing fresh pies and words of wisdom, became a cherished tradition that nourished my spirit as much as the food she shared. Through it all, I learned that healing is not linear. Some days were lighter, filled with laughter and hope. Others, shadows crept in, testing my resolve. But I held fast to the belief that even the deepest scars could become part of a story of resilience and love. As summer waned and autumn painted the landscape with hues of amber and crimson, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. My heart, though forever marked by the past, beat with a new strength and clarity. The farm was no longer just a place of betrayal. It was a testament to endurance, a living symbol of the human capacity to forgive and rebuild. The months that followed our commitment to heal were a delicate dance, sometimes tentative, sometimes steady, but always forward. The farm that had once been a silent witness to heartbreak slowly became a place of new memories and cautious joy. Each morning, as dawn broke over the Tennessee hills, I found myself embracing the promise of a fresh start, even as the past whispered in the shadows. John and I learned to speak openly, to share not just the good but the fears and doubts that lingered beneath the surface. It was a slow process. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend overnight. But with each honest conversation, each shared meal, each evening spent watching the stars from the porch, the thread of our connection grew stronger. I discovered reservoirs of patience and forgiveness I never knew I had. Forgiveness, I realized, was less about absolving the other, and more about freeing myself from the chains of bitterness. It was a gift I gave to my own heart, allowing it to heal and expand. Our neighbors noticed the change, offering quiet smiles and gentle encouragement. Mrs. Jenkins, ever the wise soul, reminded me that life's storms often lead to the most beautiful rainbows if we hold on long enough. The farm thrived once more, its golden fields waving like a banner of resilience. The scent of freshly tilled earth, the hum of bees around blooming wildflowers, and the soft rustling of cornstalks became the soundtrack to our renewed life. Yet, even in moments of peace, the shadow of betrayal lingered, a reminder of what had been lost and what had been painfully reclaimed. But I chose to see those shadows as part of the tapestry of my story, threads that gave depth and texture to the fabric of my life. I began to find joy in small things, again the laughter of children playing near the creek, the warmth of sunlight on my face, the gentle touch of John's hand when no words were needed. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I walked it with a heart open to love, hope, and the strength that comes from surviving the darkest nights. The farm settled into a gentle rhythm again, the cycles of planting and harvest marking the passage of time and the slow mending of my heart. Each sunrise brought with it the promise of new beginnings, yet the past lingered like a shadow just beyond the light. I found myself walking the fields alone more often, the soft earth beneath my boots a comforting reminder of life's endurance. The scent of wildflowers, the buzz of bees, and the distant call of a lone hawk became the soundtrack of my days, simple, natural, and healing. Despite the progress, I knew the road to full recovery would be long and winding. Trust, once fractured, does not easily mend. Yet, in the stillness of the evening, as the sky blushed with twilight hues, I felt a growing peace within me, a quiet resilience born from pain and perseverance. John and I continued to rebuild, not rushing, but moving forward with care. Our conversations grew deeper, more honest, and with time, laughter returned to our home. The farm, once heavy with sorrow, now echoed with the sounds of healing and hope. Community remained a pillar of strength. Friends and neighbors offered kindness in small acts, shared meals, a helping hand, or a listening ear. Mrs. Jenkins' wisdom reminded me that healing is not a straight path, but a winding journey, and every step forward is a victory. In these quiet moments, I discovered a new part of myself, stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. I learned that peace is not the absence of pain, but the presence of grace amidst it. Though the scars of betrayal remained, they no longer defined me. Instead, they became part of a story of survival, courage, and the unyielding power of love. As the seasons shifted from the golden hues of autumn to the quiet stillness of winter, I found myself reflecting on the journey we had traveled, the twists and turns, the heartbreak and healing, the moments of doubt and the sparks of hope. The farm, blanketed in frost and snow, stood as a testament to endurance, a place where life continues even in the harshest conditions. Inside the old farmhouse, the warmth of the fire and the soft glow of lantern light created a haven from the cold outside. John and I had come to understand that healing is not a destination but a journey, one marked by small victories and setbacks alike. Our relationship, once fractured, was slowly being rebuilt on a foundation of honesty, respect, and renewed commitment. I had learned to embrace the power of vulnerability, sharing my fears and dreams without reservation. John, too, opened his heart in ways I had never seen before, allowing us to forge a deeper connection. The community around us remained a source of strength and comfort. Neighbors stopped by with warm smiles and baskets of fresh bread, their simple acts of kindness weaving a tapestry of support that held us together. In the quiet moments, watching the snow fall gently over the fields, or sitting together by the fire, I found a sense of peace I had thought lost forever. The scars of betrayal remained, but they were softened by the love that endured and the resilience we had discovered. I realized that life's most profound lessons often come from its hardest trials, and though the past had shaped me, it no longer defined me. With a heart open to the future, I stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, grateful for the strength I had found and the hope that carried me onward. The warmth of spring blossomed fully into summer, and with it came a profound sense of hope that seemed to breathe new life into every corner of the farm and my heart. The fields swayed with golden wheat, humming with the busy activity of bees and birds, and the long days were filled with sunlight that felt like a gentle embrace. John and I had journeyed far from the shadows of betrayal, walking hand in hand toward a future still uncertain, but filled with promise. Our love, once fractured, was being reborn, not perfect, but real and resilient. Together, we celebrated small victories, a successful harvest, shared laughter over evening meals, and quiet moments beneath the vast Tennessee sky. The farm had become a sanctuary of healing, its soil rich not only with crops but with the seeds of forgiveness and renewal. The community remained a steadfast support, their kindness a balm to wounds both seen and unseen. Mrs. Jenkins' visits continued, her gentle wisdom a guiding light in times of doubt. Through it all, I learned that hope is not a fleeting feeling, but a choice, a daily commitment to believe in the possibility of joy despite past pain. Healing is a path walked step by step, sometimes slowly, sometimes with leaps of faith. As I tended the garden and watched new life sprout from the earth, I saw reflections of my own journey, a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. The scars of betrayal were a part of me, yes, but they no longer defined my story. Instead, they were chapters in a tale of survival, love, and the courage to embrace new beginnings. With a heart open wide and eyes fixed on the horizon, I stepped forward into the future, grateful for the lessons of the past and hopeful for the days yet to come. The gentle warmth of summer wrapped around the farm like a comforting blanket, and with each passing day, I found myself growing stronger, more whole. The trials I had faced, the heartaches endured, were threads woven into the fabric of my being, threads that gave me resilience and wisdom beyond my years. I began to rediscover parts of myself that had been buried beneath layers of pain and doubt. The simple pleasures, morning dew on the grass, the soft melody of a meadowlark, the scent of fresh bread baking in the oven became sources of joy and renewal. In quiet moments alone, I reflected on the woman I had become, not defined by betrayal, but by the courage to heal and the grace to forgive. The farm, with its endless skies and rolling fields, was a mirror reflecting my journey, a landscape of growth, survival, and hope. John and I had learned to communicate with honesty and compassion, building a partnership grounded in trust, rebuilt piece by piece. Our shared laughter and gentle touches were reminders that love, though tested, could endure and transform. Community gatherings brought light and laughter back into our lives. Neighbors sharing stories and songs beneath the stars. Mrs. Jenkins, ever the wise and loving friend, reminded me that life's beauty often shines brightest after the darkest nights. I embraced each new day with gratitude, cherishing the gift of renewal and the promise of a future still unfolding. Though scars remained, they were symbols of strength, not weakness, a testament to the power of the human spirit to rise and thrive. As the summer days waned and the golden light of late August bathed the farm in a soft, warm glow, I found myself drawn deeper into faith, the steady, comforting anchor that had held me through the fiercest storms of my life. The long afternoons, filled with the hum of cicadas and the scent of wildflowers, gave way to quiet evenings where the world seemed to pause, offering space for reflection and prayer. The church bells ringing on Sunday mornings echoed through the valleys like a gentle call to hope and renewal. Their chimes stirred a sense of peace in my soul that I had not known in months. The congregation's soft hymns, sung with voices both strong and trembling, filled the small chapel with a sacred warmth that wrapped around me like a comforting shawl. In those moments, surrounded by the faithful, I felt less alone, embraced by a community bound not just by geography, but by shared stories of struggle and grace. The farm itself seemed to respond to this spiritual awakening. The fields, golden with ripening wheat, swayed gently in the summer breeze, mirroring the gentle movements of my heart as I began to let go of the bitterness that had once consumed me. The endless skies overhead, painted with strokes of pink and lavender at dusk, became a canvas of hope, a reminder that even after the darkest storms, the sun returns to light our way. John and I started attending services together, our footsteps tentative but purposeful on the worn wooden floors of the little church. It was not just a place of worship, but a sanctuary, where we sought healing, not only forgiveness for past hurts, but a renewed foundation built on faith and mutual understanding. The faces in the pews, many bearing their own scars and stories, offered silent encouragement. Their prayers and kind words wove around us, forming a tapestry of support that bolstered our fragile hope. In the quiet moments away from the farm's daily toil, I would sit on the old porch swing, its paint peeling and worn from years of weather, feeling the cool breeze brush softly against my skin. The scent of honeysuckle mingled with the fresh-cut grass, grounding me in the present even as my thoughts wandered through the winding path of our journey. I whispered prayers, not always for easy answers, but for strength, courage, and the grace to forgive. Faith became the wellspring from which I drew resilience. It taught me that forgiveness was not a single act, but a continual choice, made each day to release the hold of anger and pain. It reminded me that healing is a process, often slow and winding, but always moving toward peace. The scars of betrayal remained etched within memories of heartbreak and loss that no time could fully erase. Yet, they no longer defined my existence or dictated the course of my life. Instead, they stood as silent witnesses to the grace that had carried me through the darkest nights, the love that had mended what was broken, and the resilience nurtured by faith. With a heart softened by forgiveness and eyes lifted toward the heavens, I embraced the profound peace that comes from trusting in a higher plan. I learned that even amidst pain, there is purpose. Even in suffering, there is light. The farm, the fields, the sky soul became symbols of a life renewed, a testament to the enduring power of hope and spiritual strength. And as the stars emerged, one by one, in the velvet night, I felt a quiet joy settle in my soul, knowing that I was exactly where I needed to be, held in the gentle hands of grace. The sun was slowly setting over the fields of our farm, casting long, golden shadows that stretched like gentle fingers across the rolling land. I sat quietly on the worn wooden porch, my hands folded softly in my lap, feeling the cool evening breeze brush lightly against my skin. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming jasmine, mingling with the earthy aroma of freshly cut hay, wrapping around me like a comforting embrace. It was one of those moments when the world seems to pause, offering a quiet space for reflection as sacred time, to look back on the journey that had carried me here. I thought back to those dark days when betrayal shattered my world like a storm tearing through the calm. The nights when tears flowed freely in the silence, when hope felt like a distant, fading star. How endless those hours had seemed, and how lost I had felt. Yet, here I was, still standing, still breathing, still capable of love and trust. The scars of those painful times were etched deep within my heart, but they were no longer wounds bleeding fresh sorrow. Instead, they had become marks of survival, reminders of a spirit unbroken and a soul strengthened by fire. John sat beside me, his hand warm and steady in mine. We did not need words. The silence between us was filled with understanding and a silent promise to continue healing together. Our love was not perfect, no love ever is, but it was real and resilient, forged in the trials we had endured. Together, we had faced the darkness, stumbled along the rocky path of forgiveness, and found a way to rebuild what once seemed lost. Around us, the farm was alive with the sounds of evening, the soft chirping of crickets hidden among the tall grasses, the rustle of oak leaves stirred by the gentle breeze, and the distant lowing of cattle settling into the night. It was a symphony of life's ongoing rhythm, a reminder that, even in the quiet moments, the world keeps turning, and new days will come. As the sky deepened from warm amber to dusky indigo, stars began to sparkle like tiny lanterns scattered across a velvet canopy. Each one seemed to shine with the promise of hope, guiding me forward. I felt a profound gratitude swell within me for the pain that had taught me resilience, for the love that had been broken but never extinguished, and for the faith that had carried me through the darkest nights. Life, I had learned, is a tapestry woven with threads of both light and shadow. It is not the absence of hardship, but the courage to face it, to find beauty and meaning even amid the storms. The journey is never easy, but it is ours to walk with grace. I whispered a prayer of thanks not for an easy path, but for the strength to walk it with dignity, hope, and love. And as the night embraced the farm in its peaceful silence, I knew this was not an end, but a new beginning. A chapter filled with healing, hope, and the enduring power of love, one that I was ready to write with an open heart. Thank you, dear, for letting me share this story with you. If you'd like, I can help polish it further or prepare it for your project. Just let me know.